Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here for the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, February the 18th, 2020. At this time, if you would, please check your cell phones and other devices that you may have with you. Please turn those on silent for me at this time, if you would. If you are speaking tonight and you come to the podium or the table, please push the button to the right on the black speaker. The little red light will come up on top, and that will indicate that you are activated to speak. Madam Clerk, all of the commissioners are here tonight, along with the county attorney, the county manager, and the deputy county manager. Ladies and gentlemen, with us tonight to do our invocation is Pastor Ed Stevenson from Arnie's Fairview United Methodist Church. And our Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be done by our Girl Scout Troop 2729 from Green Street Presbyterian Church, with Marla Patchell as the troop leader. So if you will stand and join me in the invocation, Pastor Stevenson. I believe they'll be patient while you pray. No, one more time. Red light. There we go.
Before we pray, I just want to say what a joy it is, what a pleasure it is to attend a public meeting that begins with public prayer. Amen. I thank you folks for allowing that. I thank you for these precious young people who, and I'll get through this in just a second, who lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. We are many here tonight. I think I know why we're here, the big reason that we're here. I don't know how these men are going to vote, but I know most of them, and I know that they will vote their hearts, they will vote their conscience. Some will leave here unhappy. Folks, getting along does not necessarily require anything but civility. If we disagree, that's just a disagreement, and that's all it is. Please, let's not digress into what we witness in Federal City today. Thank you. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to stand before you, to invoke your Spirit. Lord, I plead with you. I make a petition before you, Lord, that you descend upon every heart here this evening, every mind here this evening, and remind us that we are all yours. And thank you, Lord, that for those who have gone before us, who have given their lives for the right for us to stand here in this hallowed hall, to be heard, to voice our opinions. Nowhere else probably on earth, Lord, is this allowed, and we thank you for that. But now we ask, Lord, we plead that you go with us. Go with this group of men and women. Go with this congregation, this audience, as they voice their opinions. Lord, help us to remain your children. We make our plea, and we offer our prayer in the most precious name we know, that of our Savior, your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Before we start to pledge, would the veterans in our audience please raise your hands? Thank you for your service, and if you so desire, during the Pledge of Allegiance, you may salute this flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll stay right there, we want to come down and take a picture with you, okay? Thank you. Parents of the children, please come forward so you can get a picture. Moving on to item number 4, gentlemen, is approval of the agenda, which you've had for several days now. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you've heard Wayne's motion. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Moving on to item number 5 is the approval of minutes. We have minutes from July the 2nd, pre-agenda meeting, July the 16th, our regular meeting, August the 6th, pre-agenda meeting, and August the 6th, a special meeting. Does anybody have any deletions or changes?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that all 4 be approved.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Commissioner Taylor's motion. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you so much. Moving on, item number 6 is our presentation of the Pet of the Month. Lindsay Stump, our Animal Services Coordinator, is here with us tonight. Lindsay, where are you hiding? Lindsay's going to be bringing Buster forward. Come on, Buster. There you go. Woo. Yeah.
Hi guys, this is Buster. Thank you all for showing up for him. He's really excited to see you. He is an awesome 1-year-old shepherd mix. He's a really cool dog. He loves children. He rides in the car great. He's a little overwhelmed right now, but he's having a blast. So you guys can come down to the Animal Services Center to meet him. He is available for adoption and is looking for his forever home.
All right, great. Thank you so very much. Buster, we appreciate you being here. Ladies and gentlemen, as everyone knows, our Animal Services Shelter. Oh, we got some more pictures. We got kittens up here. Let's take a look at the kittens before we move on. Okay. All right.
Happy Valentine's Day! I'm here with my Valentine Tangerine, who is a super sweet orange tabby boy. He gets along with cats, kids, and dogs, and he is looking for his forever home.
Yay. Okay, great. Again, we're trying extremely hard with our new Animal Services Director and her staff down there to turn the euthanization rate around, which we have. We are very proud of that. But there's still a lot of animals that come into the Burke Animal Services Center. So please, if you're down around that on Kersey Drive, please stop in and take a look at one of those animals. And if any way to adopt one, we certainly would appreciate that. Thank you so much. Moving on into our presentations, our second order is from the Tourism Development Authority, is the financial update for the period ending December the 31st, 2019, and that will be presented by Ed Phillips, our TDA Director. Ed?
Good evening. Before I get started, I just want to make a note. I think that dog took a liking to you, Commissioner Mulvey. I could tell there was a connection right there. So for our balance sheet for December 31st, we had $321,502 in the bank. And you can take a look at the rest of that, but that's the important thing. We are collecting occupancy tax every month through the county, all across Burke County. We've collected $261,000 so far in this fiscal year. A budget of $607,000. I can tell you that through December 31st collections, we are flat. We are not increasing, we're not decreasing, we're essentially flat in the collections from the previous fiscal year. Expenses are in line. I will also mention that at our last TDA board meeting, the board authorized us to pursue purchasing a larger trolley, and we are in the process of doing that. They've accepted our offer for that. And we'll be selling our trolley through a bid process here in the next couple of months. But we look forward to servicing more folks in Burke County with a larger trolley and a newer model. And I'd entertain any questions.
Thank you, Ed, for that presentation. Gentlemen, questions for Mr. Phillips?
Mr. Chairman, well, that's a tough act to follow, by the way, dogs and cats. Sorry about that. But the one thing, remind us when we anticipate or guesstimate when the new hotel's coming online downtown, because when budgeting, we got to take those occupancy taxes into account.
That's correct. And so the hotel, last I heard, was February 28th.
Okay.
They are working around the clock, even over the weekend at the hotel. I was down there over the weekend watching them. Offered my assistance. Evidently, I don't have skills that they're looking for. But anyway, they are working hard to get it open in the next couple of weeks. So,
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain the motion to accept the report.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, all in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you, Ed, so very much. Moving on scheduled public hearings, gentlemen, we have no public hearings tonight. Madam Clerk, we'll move forward with informal comments. Please let me remind everyone when you come up, 3 minutes is allowable on the public comments. If you would, state your name, your address, what you're speaking about, and the timer will begin. Try to stick to the 3 minutes if you can. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 8 speakers signed up tonight. I would call Senator Warren Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing this opportunity to speak tonight. I want to thank each of the commissioners for what you do for Burke County and the staff, what you do for Burke County. I also want to thank all the citizens for coming out to this meeting tonight. Obviously, the issue that is on many of our minds tonight is the constitutional issue regarding the Second Amendment. And so I thank the commission for being willing to take that subject up. After today's ruling that we had from the courts in regard to the voter ID, we just are in an era when we see what can happen when liberal judges and liberal politicians take the Constitution into their own hands and disregard the will of the people. So I thank the commission for being willing to address this issue. It's something that hasn't come to it's at our border in the state of Virginia. It hasn't come to North Carolina yet, and I think the people of this county and the people of this state need to remain vigilant and to just consider when they vote the views that their candidates and their representatives have on the Constitution. And I thank you for the work that you're doing tonight, and would just encourage each of the commissioners to support the resolution.
Thank you, Senator, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us tonight. Madam Clerk?
Mr. David Cavanis.
Good evening. My name is David Cavanis. I'm a Burke County citizen. I live at 1872 Raider Circle in the great community of Chesterfield. This evening, as the founder of the Burke County 2A group, and on behalf of Burke County residents, 3,000 online petition signatures and 555 written petitions that we just counted up, I'd like to thank the leadership of the board, Johnny Carswell, Scott Mulway, and all the members that have, and citizens that have stepped up and got involved. This wouldn't have been possible without you. This is not the end, this is the beginning. We're not stopping here. There's much to be done at our state and country to get things straight and right. We will start here in our own Burke County. To the Burke County residents, stay engaged, be heard, and we will need to help make changes from here to the state capitol and to D.C. We can no longer tolerate self-serving politicians who do not listen to the will of the people. Our resolution that is getting voted for this evening and will be passed is because of you stepping up and saying enough is enough. Let's not forget those men who took the lead, like Johnny Carswell, Scott Mulway. We need more of this kind of participation from residents if you want to make real changes in our future. Be vocal and vote. Join us in our Facebook group, Make Burke County a Second Amendment Sanctuary. As we move forward, we'll be organizing supporters and volunteers to help electing those who support 2A into office. Thank you again, because nothing will be possible without the good citizens, again, that have stepped forward and voiced their concern to take action. Thanks for hearing us this evening.
Mr. Barry Clark.
You're good.
Ready on. My name is Barry Clark. I live at 2022 Warrior Fork Trail here in Morganton. I'm a resident of Burke County and operate a business here as well. I thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to speak, and I thank all these lovers of liberty. I stand in support of this designation of Burke County as a CRPC. It's a sad thing that we have had to come here together to make this decision, but the facts are clear. Our wonderful country and its tradition in support of liberty is in deep trouble. Yes, there are big differences among us about how things should be done, but different opinions and the ability to present them openly is what makes us great. For far too long, our United States Supreme Court has failed to assert itself in the defense of our constitutional guarantees, specifically those regarding the Second Amendment to the Constitution. For too long, that court has been too comfortable in its ivory tower and its self-admiration for having attained that high office. The assault on the Second Amendment has taken place for many years now, at least since 1934 with the enactment of the National Firearms Act. The executive and legislative branches have attacked. The judicial system has largely been silent on this. Those assaults continue, and nearly all of them go unanswered. That is why we are here with this symbolic declaration. We have no other choice. And just like the citizens in 1774, our first efforts are poured into petition, protest, and declaration. We share the same hope as they did in 1774, that these efforts are sufficient. I urge the commissioners to do the right thing and support this declaration. And beyond that, if the time comes, I urge all of our citizens to stand up for your neighbor when the struggle descends upon his house in the form of confiscation or red flag. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Miss Ann Fisher.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for being here and letting me to speak to this resolution that's been proposed. I live in Morganton, and just to let you know, I'm representing every town for gun safety, as well as the South Mountain Women's Health Alliance, which has been a women's health protection service to the area and the state, really. Also, for the record, just so you know, I am a descendant of Roger Williams, the founder of Freedom, Religious Freedom in Rhode Island after he got kicked out of Massachusetts. So I have the concern that I'm speaking against this resolution because the title is a misnomer, which says declaring Burke County a constitutional rights protection, but the only protection it is talking about is the Second Amendment. And we have much other concern for the First Amendment rights, speech, the press, religious freedom, as well as assembly. And this resolution, as I see it, is superfluous, it's unnecessary, and it's redundant. As Commissioner Maynard Taylor spoke at the pre-agenda meeting, he already acknowledged that the commissioners have sworn to take the oath to uphold the North Carolina Constitution as well as the U.S. Constitution. So for that reason, it is really unnecessary. But more importantly, it is inaccurate in the third whereas, and I've communicated this to all the commissioners, that the statement that says, "Nothing herein shall justify the practice of carrying concealed weapons." Well, it is already a matter of law. The General Assembly has enacted such a practice. So we have that. So that part of the resolution is completely inaccurate. And also in that same paragraph, it declares that standing armies in time of peace are dangerous to liberty, they shall not be maintained. Obviously, North Carolina has a National Guard called out by the governor whenever an emergency arises, and state National Guards have been called, even by presidents, for national emergencies, as when President Eisenhower called them out to enforce school integration. It should be noted that the phrase probably that causes the most confusion is the part which declares a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, which back in the day was code for slave patrols. Only white men and probably women were allowed to carry guns, to have guns, and the militia was an ad hoc volunteer group of white males specifically called up or ever ready to go on patrol looking for runaway slaves, and as many times in our nation's history, participated in the murder of over 1 million Native Americans. We have many rogue militias, and there's a slim line between the rogue militia and a police state. So that's why it's very careful that we tread gently on this whole issue. The real intent of these resolutions is to fire up a particular base of voters, create hysteria, and promote a culture of fear, and attempt to suppress the vote. These resolutions are scare tactics also used by the NRA to fill its coffers and rebuild its membership and continue its chokehold on Congress and leave it, rendering it impotent to have any special regulation and respectable transformation of our gun regulations. And I'll just say quickly, Senator Burr and Senator Tillis have benefited from the NRA, who tried to rebuild their coffers and their membership, giving them over $11 million in contributions. So while we've had, and the sheriff recently, other day, reported on this to a group of people, we've had increasingly number of mass shootings in the last 3 years. Every year has increased. Over 434 mass shootings in this country alone.
And
every year
hold on
progressed.
just one second.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, please respect. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to speak. Are you finished, Ann?
yes, I just want to say that we need, gun safety is a public health issue, and we need to work on prevention, with suicides being the #1 reason for gun deaths, behind homicides and the mass shootings.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. And I urge you to vote it down.
Below standard demon threats. That's not. Sit down and shut up.
Let's be respectful.
Miss Alice Halstead?
And is that the end of the 2 people that are going to speak?
No, just going in alphabetical order.
Leave her till last. Then.
Leave me, yeah, please, thank you.
Mark Perot?
Cut it back on. There you go. You got it.
Well, thank you for being here. My name is Mark Prue. I live in Valdez on Church Street. And I don't have enough time to go through the Federalist Papers to discuss the intent of when it comes to the well-armed militia. I have my own thoughts about that. But what I do see is politicians, every cycle, it's a big issue. Oh, I'm going to go after, I want to take care of the people. And so they identify a particular weapon because that's easy. I can point over here and say, oh, it's her problem. It's a lot harder to identify what the real problem is, which is a cultural issue that glorifies violence. That gun, I can throw a gun on the table there, and it's not going to do anything. All these draconian laws that we see in Virginia, and they're trying to pass all over the country, is going to do nothing but limit the very people that you see here tonight from protecting themselves. And that's what this really is about. You look at, they're always demonizing the NRA. Well, you know what? The NRA is not going around killing people.
Hello.
It's the criminals. And I went on the internet. Out of 330 million people, or give or take, we've had 5,175 gun violence. Like the last speaker said, there was 3,200 from suicide. Yet, out of 330 million people, we had 1.6 million crashes from people texting and driving. But yet, do they talk about that? No. This is about politics, and it's about people that are sitting up in their ivory towers with armed security telling me how I can take care of my family and my property. I'm my security. I can't wait for the police to get here. I don't have a whole gun safe full of guns. I have a shotgun and a pistol. But it is my decision. Those are the ones I want to take. That's what I feel like I need to take care of me. It's not about ergonomics of the black rifle they talk about. It's not a military weapon. I was in the Army. I know probably more about weapons than a lot of people. This is about nothing but a veil campaign deal that we see every cycle, and it has nothing to do. We tried this in '94. It did nothing to limit the amount of gun violence, but they don't care. It's just an easy target. It's much harder to look at society and all the things that we have slipped from that is causing these things. You can't stop all of it, but in 330 million people, 2,000 homicides, which is horrific. But is this really where we want to put our emphasis on? No. All it will do is take my ability away and other people's abilities away from protecting themselves. It will not. We're not the ones going around doing this stuff. We're not going around killing people. We just want the right to defend ourselves. And that's basically all it is.
Mr. Mark Small.
Cut it back on, Mark. It was on.
Put it off? Okay.
There you go.
Thought red meant stop. Thank you, commissioners, for letting me speak here tonight. I thought there'd be one or two people, so I'm a little nervous here. My name is Mark Small. I live on Marie Avenue in Valdez, North Carolina. I'm just a regular guy. I raised a family, I work, I pay my taxes, and I stay out of trouble. And my guess is these guys behind me are just like me in that regard, along with millions of others across the United States. Many of us are tired of seeing our rights under assault by our elected representatives. Often I wonder who they are really beholden to. It certainly seems that it is not us, we the people.
We the people, you got
It appears that the regular guy is losing his voice. The Second Amendment is under almost continuous assault. Virginia and Arizona are two such current examples. Gun ownership was and is a right given to us in the United States Constitution. Yet we see the governor and legislature in Virginia attacking this constitutional right, and also regarding honest law-abiding citizens with contempt. This is also happening in many other levels of government across the United States. This is a form of tyranny. One thing to remember is that the nature of tyranny is it always seeks to expand. If left unchallenged, we can become mere servants or slaves to an oligarchy. And I don't think I'm overstating that. While some may say the Second Amendment sanctuary vote is symbolic and has no force behind it, I disagree. All across the United States and here in Burke County, people are finally standing up to the politicians that continue to erode our rights. Tonight, you see here regular people, just like myself, and we're saying stop. Enough is enough. Stop infringing on our rights. We are law-abiding citizens who just want to be left alone. So I hope you will vote yes for the Second Amendment sanctuary for Burke County, and I appreciate your time in consideration of this matter.
Thank you.
Alice?
That's all the 2A people. Thanks for all you 2A people being here tonight. Warren Daniels, thank you for coming and joining the rest of the residents. We appreciate you, sir. Keep fighting. Good evening, fellas and ladies, okay? My name's Alice Halstead. I'm from Colony Springs, North Carolina. Yes, I am the organizer for the Burke 2A movement, but now I speak for myself as a resident who's extremely tired of the political ploys that I have witnessed, and I'm no longer going to stay silent. Here's some facts our residents don't know. Sheriff Wisnett was not on board with the 2A campaign when we first started this. He was added after the fact. Leading from behind approach is not going to be tolerated for Burke County citizens anymore with our government. If our top county law enforcement officer cannot take a stand with us, then we need leadership that will. I have contacted each individual commissioner, and I have heard from everybody on this commission except for Wayne Abley. The paper stated that Mr. Abley is not going to the retreat because he is somehow offended about $2,000 being spent on a retreat, which he knew about, which he never opposed. I was at the pre-agenda meeting, so I know what was said. And in the newspaper, it goes on to endorse people who are currently running against Jeff Britton, Johnny Carswell, and Scott Mulvey. Make no mistake, what he did was a power grab for the commissioner's chair, and I'm here tonight, sir, to call you out. You're an elected official. It is your job to be at that meeting to discuss the next 10 years. You don't have to stay at the motel. It's a 45-minute drive. I plan on being there, and I expect you to be there as well, sir. But you do not have to. You remember that you work for us, the citizens, and you have a job to perform. And we're not going to tolerate you sitting out because there's an issue that you need to work out with our board. Let's talk about one of the people that he endorsed. I've had my dealings with Christy Gupton, and I can tell you she wants a seat for herself, and she will be beholden to Wayne if she gets a seat, because she doesn't represent me. In a written exchange with me, she told me that if she was on the board, that she would already pass this. Well, excuse me, Christy. One of us didn't wait until we had commissioner behind our name before we stood up.
You got to look this way at us, okay?
She had the same opportunity to organize and stand up for these people, and she didn't do it. She needed the accolades and the title of commissioner. That's not necessary. Ms. Gupton was seeking the 2A platform to obtain her seat. When that wasn't going to work, they had to move to a plan B. The paper article was purely political stunt in order for Mr. Abley to try to stack the commission with people so he can rule the roost. Republicans in name only, him and those he endorsed. Unfortunately, the GOP of Burke County is full of them. So vote carefully with which Republicans on the March 3rd ballot, but vote Republican for sure. We have all seen this type of virtue signaling before. Wayne Abley is not the type of leadership Burke County wants or needs. This is what is wrong with the politics today in this state and in our country. Johnny Carswell, Scott Mulvey, Jeff Britton, I support your re-election bid 100%. You are the type of leaders that this county needs moving forward. To not participate, Mr. Abley, in the retreat for 10 years of planning tells me very clearly that you have no intention of representing me or doing the work that you were elected to do now or for the next 10 years. That doesn't represent me or Burke County residents, so who is it representing?
Your comments. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Mr. George Redder.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for the time this evening. The reason I'm standing before you is the January 15th special meeting that was held in terms of the Fonta Flora and the wedding venue that was proposed to you at that point in time. I'm just here this evening to speak not against development, but for development. You folks over the last 20 years have done an admirable job in doing so many different things along the lakefront and the area out there. The concern that I want to express, and several who are with me this evening want to express, is as you look to your March meeting to bring this up, is to consider a couple things. To our knowledge, the only public land that would be handled by a private investor would be that wedding venue out there. All other land around the lake currently is either owned privately by people with homes or by people who run a business. And so from that standpoint, there's a concern. Second, in terms of bringing 12 to 15,000 people per year into Burke County, we've already seen a significant increase coming into the county, and that's all good news right there. As you consider in your March meeting this wedding venue proposal, please consider several things. One, taxpayer money from public land for private investors is not a good thing. Two, what's going to happen to the view shed, to the water that's going on out there at the lake as well, too. And finally, the last thing I wanted to say is you folks over the last 20 years have engaged, as you are this evening, the community before you make a decision. Please do so in terms of considering the wedding venue proposals before you to involve the community once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Madam Clerk?
That's all the cards I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Moving on to our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. At this time, I would like to recognize the County Manager, Mr. Brian Steen. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have 11 items on your consent agenda. Burke County Public Schools presentation of financial data for the period ending December 31st, 2019. You also have some community development easement agreement from Morganton Greenway. You have an item from Communications 911 phone hardware refresh lease agreement. From the Fire Marshal's Office hazard mitigation plan resolution. From Finance County financial report for the period ending December 31st, 2019. Item 6, JCPC funding allocation revision for Raise the Age expansion funds. Item 7, JCPC funding policy revision. Item 8, Tax Department tax collection report for January 2020. Item 9, Tax Department release refund report for January 2020. Item 10, Tax Department order for advertisements for the 2019 delinquent real property taxes. And item 11, Western Piedmont Community College presentation of financial data for the period ending December 31st, 2019. That concludes your consent agenda.
Thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, you've heard the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you've heard Wayne's motion to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that is 5-0. At this time, we'll move forward to items for decision. The first item on the decision is from Madam Clerk for the appointment and removal to the Burke County Planning Board. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. This is a request to make some appointments and a removal to the Burke County Planning Board. Mr. Robert Love occupies seat number 4, as well as he serves on 2 other county boards, and he was kind enough to serve until we could find some other applicants for this board to consider. And his resignation letter is in your packet. This is a request to remove Mr. Love from the planning board and thank him for his service, and to appoint either Joyce Cunahan or Sarah Chester to the Burke County Planning Board, seat number 4, representing the West, to complete an unexpired term ending September 30th, 2021.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Madam Clerk. Is there a nomination for one of these appointees to the board?
Mr. Chairman, a comment if I may, please.
Yes, sir, you may.
I noticed in one of those candidates for the position had stated she'd be happy to serve on one of the other committees. And my question to the board is simply, if we choose the other one, and can we put the other one on another board? And therefore, we have 2 very qualified people serving in those positions.
Absolutely. Thank you for that observation, Maynard. All right, gentlemen, nomination?
Sarah Chester, please, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is there any other nominations? Hearing none, the nominations are closed. Before us is the name of Sarah Chester to be appointed to the Burke County Planning Board, seat number 4 West, to complete an unexpired term ending September 30th, 2021. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you so very much, gentlemen.
And Mr. Chairman, does that also include the removal of Mr.
That does
Love?
include the removal of Mr. Robert Love, and please send him a letter from me thanking him again for his service to this board as always.
Certainly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, moving on to our next item is the Burke County Board of Commissioners resolution declaring Burke County, North Carolina a constitutional rights protected county. Gentlemen, you've had the resolution in front of you. We sat through a long meeting last month about the resolution. We've read the resolution during our pre-agenda meeting, so I offer that up from the chair to you if anybody has any questions or comments or anything before we adopt a resolution.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I had suggested, and I think the clerk sent that to everybody, but I think it would strengthen this resolution a great deal if in the last paragraph we added to the North Carolina state and the federal government to that resolution. We are controlled more by the state and more by the federal government in this position, more than we are obviously by ourselves or our county. And I think those two entities would help that resolution a great deal. And I would make the motion to add that amendment or amend it to that and make a motion to accept the resolution.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Commissioner Taylor's motion to amend, and you've had a copy of that amendment. All in favor of that amendment signify by raising the right hand. All opposed? That motion fails 3-2. Is there any other amendments to be brought forth? Hearing none before us at this time is the original resolution that we had. All in favor of that resolution signify by raising your right hands. All opposed? Madam Clerk, just give me just one moment. Ladies and gentlemen, please be quiet for just a moment. Now, therefore, the Burke County Board of Commissioners hereby declares Burke County, North Carolina, as a constitutional rights protected county, adopted this 18th day of February 2020. John E. W. Carswell, Chairman of the Board. Thank you so very much. All right. Don't leave us. Stay around, okay? Moving on to items for decision number 3 from the county manager, an education benefit for detention officers at the Burke County Jail. That will be presented by Brian Steen, county manager. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I think you're familiar with the new jail and the officers that we're needing. We've been told by the sheriff they're having some difficulty recruiting new officers, and I look back at what we did for sheriffs back in the spring to help them with the sheriff's sworn officers, and I've asking this board to consider paralleling that with the same kind of extra benefit if they obtain different certification levels within their profession, as well as relevant degrees towards their profession as a means to help us to recruit good qualified candidates and retain them once we have them in our employ. I don't think there's any significant difference in what we did for the deputies.
All right, Jim, you heard Brian's presentation. Questions or comments?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Brian. I think this is equitable. We've done it for the sworn officers. I think we need to do it for the detention officers and reward them accordingly.
Any other comments?
Brian, what is the cost of this?
Well, that's going to depend on the officers and whether they...
If we went to our next fiscal year.
I think, Rhonda, I believe she was looking at that right now the cumulative total, if everybody that has the certifications came forward, it'd be about $2,000 total. Rhonda, is that right? If you would just come up. Again, it's, as we gain people and if they do move through getting the different certifications or degrees, that's a variable I can't really account for at this point.
Sheriff, shut that door for me, please. Sheriff, shut that door for me, please.
Commissioner Abley, it looks like right now it'd be about $2,000 for that. And that's on the education side. Right now, we don't have anybody that qualifies for the certification at this time.
Rhonda, I made a comment in our pre-agenda that I couldn't see why we can't start this with the next budget. And it ain't the money. Obviously, the $2,000 is not the money. The problem is we keep adjusting our budget up and up and up. And I just, why can't we start this on July 1 to match our calendar year budgets? These kind of things, our managers need to get, to the point that they realize that the budget session, when we're doing the budget, is when you add money, not every time somebody sneezes. And we need to get back into that routine where only time you add to the budget, unless it's an emergency, obviously we're here for emergencies too, but we need to do this and get into the practice of being a calendar budget entities. And I'd make that as a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we pass this motion and make it effective July 1.
All right, before that, we entertain that motion. The county manager had some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, we began trying to staff for the new jail and the additional positions back in the fall. And the new jail opened at the end of December, and the vacancy issues are now. If that's why I'm asking to be able to address the problem that we have at this point in time. And I understand the budget cycle, and I can appreciate that for most things, but the vacancies are now.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to recognize Mr. Britton. He came in first.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, my opinion on this matter is this, as Brian just said, affects current vacancies, and it also, even though we may not pay any of this money out in this fiscal year, it gives us one more tool to make available to prospective employees that might be the thing that gives us an edge over somebody else in this very competitive labor market.
Commissioner Tote.
Well, I believe what I am hearing, that we're using this as an enticement to hire people. Folks, $2,000 divided over 7, 8, 10 people. You can go ahead and do that. I'll withdraw my motion. My point is, for these type of people, $500 ain't going to make a difference. And and again, I go back to my statement. It's a principle of the thing that we play like we're genies in a bottle, and somebody makes a request, and we jump out and grant it, and we don't follow our own rules and procedures about building and doing the budget. I'll withdraw my amendment to the motion and make the motion we pass.
All right, for the record, I'm going to read the motion. Effective March 1st, 2020, current and future detention officers shall be eligible to receive a 1.5% increase in pay for attainment of an intermediate detention officer certification and an additional 1.5% for attainment of an advanced detention officer certification. Effective March 1st, 2020, current and future detention officers shall be eligible to receive a $500 increase in pay for possession of an associate's degree, college associate's degree, or $1,000 for a college bachelor's degree, or $1,500 for a college master's degree. To be eligible for the pay increase, the degree must be in a law enforcement detention officer related field. The motion is before the board. All in favor signify by raising of the right hands. All opposed. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, moving on to our reports and comments from the county manager. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to present the significant summary of accomplishments for the year 2019. This time I'm going to introduce Brian Steen, our county manager. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We do this about every February that I've been here to kind of look back over our shoulders and see where we've been. If you're going up a hill, you really don't realize how far you've come till you look back to where you came from. So here we go. From economic development, let me see if I got my clicker right. During 2019, we recruited a total of 262 new jobs and $13.3 million in investments announced. Via Burke County, BDI received $1.9 million from the Industrial Development Fund to help construct an elevated water tank at the Burke Business Park. You may remember that we recruited Synergy Labs in Hildebrand. That was $11.2 million of the $13.3 million in investment, and they are to hire 237 new full-time jobs. $2 million plus JDIG and a $500,000 building reuse grant was received. In Marv's Industry in Hildebrand was the other $2.1 million investment in 25 new full-time jobs and $312,000 in building reuse grants. As you may remember, it was back this summer when we adopted the budget that we moved forward with the separation of the operation of the Animal Services building from the Animal Control Officers, and that fell underneath the county manager. Burke County Animal Services is a department created in August of 2019. Since August of 2019, the live release rate for cats went from 3% save rate in 2018 to 56% live release rate in 2019. The live release rate for dogs went from 57% in 2018 to 95% in 2019. The ACS hours of operation have been extended to evenings and weekends to allow more families time to visit and adopt their new family member. Staff established the following programs: volunteer program, fostering program, day out program, pets of the month, as you saw earlier tonight. And I think if any of you had a chance to see the flyer for the Valentine's Doggone and Catastrophe, they are innovative and they are doing a fantastic job. Next is community development. Rezoning efforts in the Lake James area encompassing 72 individual parcels of land totaling approximately 2,685 acres in the Linville Township. Most of the land was rezoned to low density conservation. You also completed, you see the picture there, construction of the White Creek Covered Bridge. There's not but 3 covered bridges in the state of North Carolina, and one of them is here in Burke County. Completed installation of a new restroom at the Fontaflora Park. And the North Carolina Cooperative Extension. Several members of the Burke County Cooperative Extension staff were recognized at state and national levels in 2019 for outstanding performance, dedication, and innovations. In total, they received 14 state awards and 3 national awards. Move over to Emergency Communications Center. Sent personnel to provide communication support at the state EOC during Hurricane Dorian. Completed infrastructure upgrades to various systems to include radios, recorders, and wireless access points. Began the transition to state ESIN net for 911 call handling. Answered 45,784 emergency calls, 148,444 administrative calls, and dispatched 152,859 calls for service. For EMS, we purchased 2 new 2019 Ford F-450 four-wheel drive ambulances with a Striker power load system. Burke County EMS was awarded the American Heart Association Mission Lifeline EMS Gold Plus Achievement Award for continued excellent care in STEMI management. This is the second successive year EMS has received the award. We also deployed a Type 1 swiftwater rescue team to Brunswick County, North Carolina, in September 2019 for Hurricane Dorian relief. The Fire Marshal's Office completed work on the Unifor Hazard Mitigation Plan in conjunction with Alexander, Caldwell, and Catawba counties. We also opened the new Emergency Management Building and moved all emergency management assets to one covered location. Before that, gentlemen, you may remember they were scattered from here to you know where. We also participated and served as a member of the North Carolina All Hazards Incident Management Team deploying to Carteret County and Ocracoke Island during Hurricane Dorian. General Services, contractor finished installation of the Highway 18 South Roney Road water line. We also purchased a new John Deere 750K dozer for the landfill that's specially equipped for the landfill and objects that they go over that could tear hydraulic lines for bulldozers that aren't prepared for the landfill operation. And for the Health Department, the second Department of Justice grant of $600,000 will fund the Harbor Lead, which means helping achieve recovery through Burke opioid use reduction, in coordination with Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program for 3 years. Burke County has been fortunate to receive several large grants to tackle various aspects of substance abuse disorder, and the community of Burke County was awarded 2 Department of Justice grants and 1 from Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust. Human Resources, we assisted the Burke County Sheriff's Office with the development of a Deputy Sheriff Training Program, developed and implemented a county telecommunications policy to ensure maximum utilization of county resources while maintaining and/or increasing the level of service delivered to clients. We were also successful in completion of Year 3 of the classification and pay study. In the library, we offered 1,379 programs for all age groups. Over 30,000 people of all age groups attended library programs. Completed expansion and renovation of the Valdez Library. I'm not reading all of this, and the Lord will be here way long. Parks and Recreation completed a new maintenance garage and wash bay for their equipment. Completed sod work at Simpson Park to keep the bank from eroding. Completed the batting center at Reap Park, which has a new cage and soft toss center. For indoor soccer, they had 130 teams. For baseball, softball, they had 50 teams. Football had 29 teams. Basketball had 144 teams, and outdoor soccer had 28 teams. At your Register of Deeds office, you got a before and after picture of the front doors. They installed the new automatic doors for greater accessibility to the office. Completed several upgrades to security there in that building. And the Register of Deeds office successfully partnered with Carolina Healthcare Systems Labor and Delivery Department to assist new mothers with easy access to their newborn's birth certificate. For Senior Center, the Senior Center partnered with North Liberty School by providing art classes to their students with the assistance of senior participants volunteering. They also had Senior Games, a partnership with Burke County Parks and Recreation Department, and the Unifor Senior Games. In Veteran Services, in 2019, Veteran Services Office partnered with the Lefevre's family in sponsoring the Gift of Giving barbecue banquet for local veterans and a toy distribution for veterans' children. Also, an annual Memorial Day and Veterans Day program were completed. For the Sheriff's Office, hired and enrolled 9 deputies into the basic law enforcement training program with 100% success. Now, gentlemen, this is the first time, you remember we hired them before they'd gotten through BLET to help us to recruit for vacant positions. So that was a new thing for us. We hired 41 detention officers, purchased a new 2019 custom-built Ford F-350 diesel jail transport van, purchased a new 2019 36-passenger Thomas jail bus, and the North Carolina Statewide Jail Administrator of the Year Award was awarded to Burke County Captain Greg Huntley. Social Services completed a position study with a consultant agency, the Chancellor Group, implemented a contract with a private agency, Veritas HHS, for the outsourcing of child support program, hired a new agency director, hosted a trick-or-treat event for more than 150 community children. Tax Department, thanks to the advancements in the department's address processing, return to sender tax notices fell from a little over 3% in 2017 to 1.71% in 2019. Soil and Water Conservation District, the Burke Soil and Water Conservation District presented conservation education programs to all 15 elementary schools, all 5 middle schools, and all 4 high schools in Burke County. The district sponsored the annual speech and essay contest and awards banquet for middle school students in Burke County. Burke County Soil and Water Conservation District is working with Patton High School to obtain grant monies for an educational wetland to be constructed and used by many of the classes at Patton. Board of Commissioners, on May 24th, 2019, the Board of Commissioners held a grand opening ribbon cutting for the White Creek Covered Bridge on the Fontaflora State Trail, and you can see that's a good-looking bridge, in Brian's opinion. On November 15th, 2019, the Board of Commissioners held a grand reopening for the Burke County Public Library in Valdez. The expansion added an additional 2,800 square feet to the library. Approximate cost of $925,000. You remember, gentlemen, you had a large donation from the Roston Family Foundation to help make this possible. The grand opening of the new Burke County Jail was held on December 12th, 2019. The new 264-bed jail is around 71,000 square feet in size and cost approximately $22 million. And if you look there, the picture there on the right is a memorial tribute to former Sheriff Oakes, who died in service. Progress continues on the Sallyport Courthouse renovation project. The project will add security features to the courthouse for the protection and safety of Burke County citizens and people awaiting sentences. And part of that, folks, is right now they have to carry them up through the stairwell that everybody else goes up through, and you ain't wanting victims and families meeting the folks they think may have done something harmful to their family. This gives us a secure elevator. It gives us a larger Sallyport in order to handle that bus that minimizes the trips back and forth to the new jail. And it answers the security issues as best we can for a building that was built in 1974, and they had no way of knowing what kind of security issues we'd be facing today. The last thing, Chairman Carswell, along with Alan Wood, President of CEO of BDI, Sarah Chester, and Molly Hemstreet, co-executives, directors of the Industrial Commons, spoke about the progress Burke County has been making in economic development at the North Carolina Rural Center during the 2019 Rural Assembly. The theme of the event was Make Your Place, Create, Transform, Celebrate. Gentlemen, that is a brief overview of the summary of accomplishments for 2019.
Thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, any questions or comments about Brian's report?
Just one quick one. Brian, when will that be accessible if somebody want to pull it up on our county website?
I'm believing tomorrow at the latest. It's already up?
I mean, but it's accessible because somebody already said
on the
mentioned
web
that they couldn't pull it up. They got the 2018, so I just want.
It's in the packet, which is on the website.
Okay.
All right, and if you go to our website and go under summary of accomplishments, you'll see it for the past several years. So, I'll double check with Steve, make sure it's uploaded.
Any other questions or comments? Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the report, and thanks.
All right. Everybody heard Commissioner Taylor's motion. All in favor signify by raising the right hand. 5-0. Madam Clerk, thank you so very much. We'll now move on to our reports and comments. I believe I'll start to the right with our attorney, county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since the last meeting of commissioners on January 21st, here are some matters that have received substantial legal attention. We have completed the Synergy documentation and the deed of trust for Synergy's building reuse grant agreement. We have completed all changes and revisions to the Aramark agreement for the new jail. We have prepared a lease agreement with Veritas to provide Veritas temporary space at the Burke County Courthouse until their permanent space is completed. We have researched and reviewed possible Second Amendment resolutions for the board's consideration. We have prepared for and attended the Commissioners' recess meeting concerning the Animal Service Center needs assessment. We have researched the use of senior centers for use by political parties or political candidates. We have prepared for and attended the Board of Commissioners, Board of Education Working Group meeting of February 5th. We have prepared for and attended a telephone conference with county attorneys, county managers, and board chairs from Gaston, Forsyth, Guilford, and Burke to discuss possible responses to the North Carolina Attorney General's proposal to the counties for settlement of the opioid lawsuits. I traveled to Chapel Hill to attend the Institute of Government and the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners County Attorneys Winter Conference on February 6th and February 7th. After the County Attorney Winter Conference, I attended a meeting of county attorneys concerning the proposed opioid litigation settlement proposed by the Attorney General. I am now one of a small group of county attorneys charged with responding to the Attorney General's office concerning their proposed settlement. I worked with Attorney Louis V. Nye, representing the City of Morganton, concerning the proposed easement agreement to allow the Greenway to cross a corner of the new Mountain View Elementary School that you voted on tonight. I'm working currently with our finance director to complete a proposed standard first responders emergency medical services contract. And those are the big things that have happened since your last monthly commissioner meeting.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Rabley?
Okay.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to add in addition to the regular meetings and the minutes that you have in your packet, I did attend the Agriculture Steering Committee meeting in Raleigh, and a lot of good information, and talked a lot of bit about hemp and some things, and I have to take hemp back off the market. I don't know. Yeah. And the other thing, sir, if you give me privilege, I got an email. The citizens needs to know the truth and the exact amount. And I got an email from Margaret Pierce, and she said there seemed to be a problem about disbursement and the money and the payback on the jail. Well, I also got this book, and everybody, do you know what this book is? This is an audit book. And we do this every year by Loudermill Church and Company. If you got your book, did everybody get a book? Page 68 is a good page. And it's got Jail Justice Center expenditures. Do you know what the total is? $24,106,770 is the total spent on the jail and borrowing. If you add the interest, which Margaret put on this sheet, of $8,728,970, you're within $100,000 of $33 million for the jail. The citizens deserve to know how much it costs. They deserve to know how much it's going to cost them a year. I think we can trust this audit that it's a way more than. By the way, we started that. Johnny, didn't we start that with $15,600,000? Ended up at 24, which is more than 60% more than we started with the quote on that jail. And that's all, Mr. Chairman. I think we can put that to bed. That these figures are pretty conclusive. And thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vice Chair.
Lost my train of thought on that. I would just encourage anybody that's a constituent out there, you can call the county finance office and they will be glad to give you the debt repayment schedule right away. And so, you know, you can look at the numbers yourself. So anyway, that being said, as you many of you know, I'm chairman of the Board of Trustees at the community college. We've been going through a presidential search. We had 79 applicants from 28 states and 4 countries. It's been an exhaustive search, but it's been a great search. We had so much interest, especially from across the nation, in this position because people want to come here, work here, live here, pray here, play here. And the community college has an unblemished reputation. So we had a lot of community interest. We had 19 people that served on our presidential search committee. I'd like to thank them again for all the many hours, which would have been, we spent, 20 hours last week. So I would say several dozen hours going through the applications, then narrowing it down to our semifinalists who we interviewed. And then as of today, I signed off on the finalists and sent this out to the entire college community, trustees, students, faculty, staff, to the paper. And so I'd like once again to thank the Presidential Search Committee. This will now be going to the trustees next week. And what will happen, the four presidential candidates, each presidential finalist will participate in an open forum. We invite and encourage everyone to attend the open forums. All forums are open to all faculty, administrators, staff, students, and the general public. There'll be a brief introduction of each candidate at the forum, followed by a question and answer session. And then feedback forms will be given to all who attend, and the completed forms will be collected at the end of each forum and given to the Board of Trustees for review. So we will get back that information as we take our deliberation, which the schedule, open forum schedule, we have each candidate coming for full day-long tours, forums, and interviews beginning next Monday, February 24th, going through Thursday, February 27th. So each candidate will have a day, and then the trustees will sit down and we will make a decision next Friday. And I just wanted to give you a quick update where we stand, and the candidates we have, I think, are amazing, and that will be in the paper. So I think everybody will be quite impressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Britton? No comments, sir. Madam Clerk?
No comments, thank you.
Mr. County Manager, anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Gentlemen, I did want to give you as a update to what JR was talking about. I attended the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners meeting this weekend, and there's 2 major concerns with the association, one being that we still do not have a state budget. That state budget will affect what we do for budgeting next year, so we're going to have to take a long, hard look at how that's going to affect us, especially with social services and what the ramifications will be of not having a state budget. Also, we spent a good amount of time on Saturday talking about the opioid litigation with the multi-district litigation attorneys that represent the counties in North Carolina, and the Attorney General being a little bit ahead of the game, who was 2 years late coming into the lawsuit itself, but wanted to try to negotiate a settlement ahead of what our MDL attorneys was trying to do. So JR has been appointed to a very select committee. We're moving forward in that opioid litigation so that we can get a good settlement for our county. All right. If nothing else, Madam Clerk, our vacancies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have the following opportunities for citizens to get involved in county boards and committees: the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, Council on Aging, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, City of Morganton for the Planning Board and Board of Adjustment for the ETJ, the Voluntary Agriculture Board, Burke County Board of Adjustment and Planning Board, Western Piedmont Regional Transit Authority Transportation Advisory Board, Partners Behavioral Health Management, Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, and the Recreation Commission.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I want to reiterate the Recreation Commission. We seem to be having a shortage of people on recreation, so if there's anybody in a particular area, if you'll check with Kay about those vacancies on the Recreation Commission, we could use some applications there. As Maynard always says for us, our Recreation Department is a strong, very strong department, and we do need some representatives on there. Gentlemen, we're going to cancel our grand opening of the Sally Port. We can't get down to a date yet, so I'll let you know about a date a little bit later. I want to remind our audience that's looking today, please have your pet spayed or neutered if you would, and please pick up some trash for us so that we can keep Burke County clean. We do have a need to go into closed session tonight to discuss threatened or pending litigation, to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to discuss economic development matters, and discuss personnel matters. For the sake of the newspaper, I do not think we'll be having any motions or any decisions. This will be for more information purposes. I want to invite Alan Wood from BDI to join us in closed session. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. We'll take a 5-minute break and then join each other in the back room. Tonight. For the record, Madam Clerk, there was a proper motion to come out of closed session. No decisions or action was taken while we're in closed session. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we stand adjourned.
How do I take the 2020 census? In March 2020, every address in the country will receive an invitation to complete a simple questionnaire. And there are 3 ways to respond. Number 1, do it online. Number 2, call by phone. Number 3, send it by mail. For those who don't respond, a census taker from your community will follow up and assist you. Shape your future. Start here. Visit 2020census.gov.